Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well today. Now, in this video, I want to share with you why I believe that taking self-custody of your Bitcoin is going to be the new currency. The new currency of sovereignty, freedom, financial independence, security, autonomy, censorship resistance. This is what it's going to be. And you have to understand that Bitcoin in self-custody is what it's designed to do. This is the true revolution. Bitcoin in self-custody is the true revolution. Now, I realize that most people, and I fall into this category, so don't think that, I'm immune to all of this, because I've done the same thing. When I first came into Bitcoin, I was attracted to it because I could see that it was an emerging asset. Now, I had no idea that it would evolve into what it is today, and that the clarity for the future would be there like it is now. And a number of things have happened over the last 18 months that have given us that clarity and even certainty for the future. And the other thing to understand is that Bitcoin is a $2 trillion asset. Now, no asset in history has reached a $2 trillion market cap ever and failed. And so Bitcoin has surpassed the $2 trillion market cap. Yes, it's pulled back a little in the last month or so, but any asset that's ever reached a $2 trillion market cap and beyond has always survived. And, we have this regulatory clarity now that we didn't have up until 18 months ago with the ETFs, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US granting Wall Street the ability to essentially synthesize Bitcoin and sell it to their financial planning clients, the likes of BlackRock, Vanguard, etc. The US Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. All of these things have added a lot of weight to the credibility of Bitcoin, even though that's not why I came here. I wasn't looking for validation from Wall Street or the US government, but it was inevitable. It was always going to happen. So what's the point of this video? The point today is to really emphasize to you why self-custody is the true revolution of Bitcoin. Now, like I said, I came here for number go up because I looked at Bitcoin as a scarce asset, not moderately scarce, but absolutely scarce. I'd always believed in real estate and gold. And, when you consider the scarcity factor attached to those assets, when I realized that Bitcoin was not moderately scarce like gold and like real estate, the fact that it was absolutely scarce, all that really needed to happen for me to have complete conviction in Bitcoin and its future was for us to have some of this extra regulatory clarity that we have now, and we've got that now. So anyway, now that we have that, in my view, on a risk-adjusted basis, getting into Bitcoin now is the best time that we've ever had. Because as Michael Saylor often says, if Bitcoin's not going to zero, then it's going to 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 100 million, right? Because nothing stops Bitcoin because it's decentralized. It's the only scarce form of money we've ever seen. It's driven by consensus, meaning that there's no one individual who can change the rules on it. There's safety in numbers. All of these nodes, these little microcomputers, are all working together every 10 minutes to ensure the decentralization and security of the Bitcoin network. Essentially, the Bitcoin network gets an audit performed on it every 10 minutes through this consensus protocol, this consensus mechanism that really drives its security and decentralization. So with all that in mind, we have to understand that if we want to really benefit from not just number go up due to the scarcity of Bitcoin, but also freedom go up due to the ability for you and I to actually be our own bank for you and I to be the heads of security of our own financial life, which we don't have that ability really in any other asset, unless, of course, we're holding, wads of cash under our mattress, or, gold dug in a hole in our own backyard. Then you could argue that we have a certain amount of money in a decentralized fashion. But try crossing a border with $1 million in your back pocket, or $1 million worth of gold. It's very, very difficult. Also, what happens if they decide to shut down cash and they institute central bank digital currencies, where everybody who has cash in the bank all of a sudden has to now download an app, right? And the balance of their accounts is now tied to this central bank digital currency, which is tied to their digital ID, their social credit score, their carbon credits, and all of that. Okay, now, my view is that this is where we're going, and I believe that we're heading towards this at a great rate of knots. And, it's not just me saying this. There are many people who are saying this and are of the same view. Now, you may argue that this won't happen. She'll be right, mate. Everything will be okay. And it may well be, right? But if you care about your financial autonomy and sovereignty and independence and security and the ability to protect your civil liberties and rights as an individual, and you want to remain censorship resistant, then at the very least you need to be looking at Bitcoin as a decentralized way to protect your savings and a portion of your wealth. And depending on how convicted you are about Bitcoin will really dictate how much of that wealth you deploy into Bitcoin and take into self-custody. So the true revolution of Bitcoin is not number go up. That is a byproduct of absolute scarcity. Okay, your wealth will compound and will grow if you park your savings and capital and superannuation into Bitcoin. The sooner you do that, the more it's going to compound and serve you financially into the future, far greater than any other asset. And the reason why is because Bitcoin, like I said, is absolutely scarce. There is only 21 million Bitcoin. So when you buy into it, what you're actually buying into is the new base layer of money, the new base layer, the new settlement layer of value, the new settlement layer of global value. Okay, Bitcoin is going to transition into a unit of account. It's going to be how individuals, corporations, institutions, and even governments settle value. Why? Because every other system of money has been corrupted to the core. And there's a saying in finance that goes back hundreds of years, and that is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is eventually what happens when you put a handful of individuals in charge of money, of banking, and they do that on behalf of the people. What happens over the course of time is that there are no checks and balances. The system becomes corrupted. And this is exactly what we have. We have a form of money now that is not backed by anything other than the faith and trust that you and I and our peers and our, family members and associates within society, the faith and trust that we have in it as a collective. But you and I both know that faith and trust can be broken, and it is being broken, and it has been broken in accelerated form over the past 5 years. And so you have to ask yourself, if medical or health lockdowns, right, if that was uncomfortable, how are things going to be once we transition into financial lockdowns? Now, we're already seeing the signs of that coming. Why is it when you go to a bank now, if you want to withdraw $5,000 in cash, why is it that that's a problem? Why is it that you're getting asked all these questions? Why is it that you need to verify what you're going to be using that money for? This is your money. You have entrusted the bank to custody your money for you. And so the issue is that over generations, we have become very much accustomed to outsourcing our financial lives. And there are layers and layers and layers and layers inside the legacy system that rape and pillage and skim our money, right? There's layers of industry that just takes our savings and our wealth every time we transact. Banks, brokers, institutions, financial planners, all of the compliance around all of that, the legal industry, accountancy. If you think about all of the layers that require us to just maintain our financial existence and all of the cost associated with that unproductive sector, they're not contributing anything to society. All they're doing is ensuring and enforcing compliance. How is that contributing to society? It's not. And so Bitcoin comes in as a decentralized asset where you can park your value that has none of those layers attached to it. None. And the more you contemplate this and think about this, and when you get to my stage in life and you've been in business for, bordering on 35 years, you start fed up with all of those layers. And you want to be more nimble, right? And on your feet, and you want to be portable and agile. And this is what Bitcoin allows you to do. To become the head of security of your own financial life, to be your own bank. And I realize for most people that is a very daunting prospect. But if you care about your financial sovereignty and your freedom, this is something now more than ever you have to be paying attention to, in my opinion. So self-custody is the way forward. That is the true revolution of Bitcoin. Number go up is why we all come here. What we stay for is the true revolution of Bitcoin, which is freedom go up. Now, if we enter a phase where every transaction is monitored and surveilled and has the ability to be quarantined, switched off, switched down, depending on how you're behaving in society, the things that you're spending money on, how that ties into the Green New Deal and the carbon credit system. Just imagine a situation where you go to a petrol station or a, produce outlet, a butcher store, whatever it might be, to buy more product, but you've exceeded your consumption limits for that particular month or particular quarter. And so now your money doesn't work. Okay? So this is just the tip of the iceberg of where all of this goes, and think about how that plays out over time, where you have all this capital in real estate and share portfolios and superannuation and savings in the bank, but now all of a sudden you don't have the freedom and autonomy to use it how you see fit. And so what we're seeing in the banking system now is the first signs of this coming, right? People are being told that they can't take X number of dollars out of the bank. They can't send it to an exchange or a brokerage to buy gold or silver or to buy Bitcoin. Or if you are able to do it, then, they give you a limit as to how much you can send per month. Okay? And this is the way things start to play out. To you, why self-custody is just so vital. And, I meet with people every single week who are on this journey, and I absolutely celebrate the fact that people have taken the leap in paying attention to Bitcoin. They're reading the books, they're watching the podcasts, they're educating themselves, and they make the decision to do the hardest thing of all, and that is to start allocating and saving to Bitcoin. But then where they struggle next is understanding why it's so critical to take self-custody of their Bitcoin. Okay? And this is why so many people, and I would say 80% of the calls that I get with people who book one-on-one calls with me on Zoom, right? I have a calendar link below if you want to book a session with me. We go for about an hour. I answer all your questions. I give you the simple next best steps for you based on what it is that you need and where you're wanting to go with this. But 80% of the calls I get are from people who they've made the first step, which is to actually buy Bitcoin, but now they want to go to the next step. And they need clarity and confidence so that they can do that in the most seamless and simplest way. Okay, and so I can guide you in that area as well. But you got to understand that the self-custody revolution is the true revolution of Bitcoin. If you have Bitcoin in self-custody, you are going to be in a very, very, very elite group amongst 8 billion people, because everybody else, even people who are considered wealthy, are going to have all of their assets at risk of increasing centralization and control and restrictions and constraints on what they can and can't do with that wealth. Not to mention the fact that when you have assets in certain jurisdictions that are pegged down to those jurisdictions, such as real estate, there's nothing you can do to teleport that asset, to move that asset to a different location, to a different jurisdiction. So in jurisdictions that are playing this globalist agenda and are moving towards a world of more centralized control, and they want to continue to tighten the screws on their citizens, right, and censor, control and surveil them at a deeper level, you've got to ask yourself, what asset, what store of value do you want to be in so that you are nimble and portable with your wealth? And this is why I also get very wealthy people, very successful people who have been property developers for 30 years, who have vast portfolios, multi-$100 million companies, right? Real estate agents who are very, very successful, who are at the coalface. And they know, they won't say this publicly, but they know that real estate is a Ponzi scheme. It's a casino. It's maxed out. It's not sustainable. And they can feel how it's getting more and more challenging, more and more difficult. Obviously, they've got to play the game because their whole career is based on it. Their whole income is dependent on it. But if you're sitting there having a beer with them and you're just talking person to person, they'll tell you the reality of the situation. And this is why those kinds of people are starting to wake up now and realize that they need a hedge against the system as well. They need to be able to protect and preserve their wealth in a decentralized way. And Bitcoin in self-custody is the only way ultimately to do that. So my message today is, if you haven't already got your Bitcoin into self-custody, you need to prioritize that as a matter of urgency. Now, you can start with a software wallet, otherwise known as a hot wallet, just an app that you download onto your phone, and you can be up and running in 5 minutes. You could have your own private key to a vault on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is where your Bitcoin is stored. You could have that up and running within 5 minutes. Now, obviously, if you're going to download a hot wallet or a software app onto your phone, it's not a place to store your life savings. It's not a place to store meaningful, large and significant amounts of Bitcoin, because the key is generated in an online environment because it's a software application. Now, when we get to storing long-term holdings of Bitcoin, if we're deploying serious amounts of capital, if we're moving our superannuation into an SMSF and then buying Bitcoin, if we're rotating capital out of other assets into Bitcoin, anything that's significant in our financial life that we're deploying into Bitcoin, we need to be making sure that we have the right setup. Cold storage devices, air-gapped, Bitcoin only, open source, right? And then there's levels to what sort of software applications you use as your Bitcoin wallet or interface. The window to your Bitcoin bank account, that's what the application does. It pairs with that hardware device. But the hardware device is the engine room. It's the thing that encrypts that private key, and that's what makes it so secure, because it's done in a completely offline environment. It's never had any exposure to the internet. So my message is self-custody. That is the true revolution of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the ultimate bearer asset. A bearer asset is an asset that he or she who has in their hand is the owner. It doesn't matter what a title deed says. It doesn't matter what a will says. It doesn't matter what a trust structure says. It doesn't matter what anything of that legacy system says. What matters is who has the key to that Bitcoin. Who has the key to the Bitcoin? He or she who has the keys to that Bitcoin owns that Bitcoin. This is why you don't leave your Bitcoin in the hands of a third party, because when push comes to shove, if we ever get to that situation, he or she who has the keys has the Bitcoin. Okay? So rule number one in Bitcoin is not your keys, not your Bitcoin. It's really that simple. I'm going to leave it there today, but I just really wanted to hammer that point home. I'm still getting calls from people who have been in Bitcoin for months, in some cases years, and they're not learning about self-custody. It is not complicated. It's very simple. It's just new. It's a new skill. It's like riding a bike. A little bit wobbly at first. You got some training wheels on. Pretty soon you learn how to ride, and then it's just second nature. So I hope you got some value today. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think about all this. Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. You'll be alerted when my next videos drop. If you want to hear from me on a regular basis. If not, that's fine. Don't subscribe. But yeah, leave a comment. And if you need to book a call with me to take action on this, I know that it'll be one of the best things that you can do on your Bitcoin journey. You'll see a link in the show notes below. This is Zane signing out. Have an awesome day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.